concrete norms regarding the minor abuse cases in the church. Though the submit was regarding the protection of minors in the church, but many accused the submit that it did not come out with concrete plans. What are the mechanisms used by the church to address this issue? Nothing was discussed in the submit. What are the procedures to be followed in handling these issues? Nothing was mentioned after the submit. What about the bishops? What about the bishops who are covering up these cases in their dioceses and not making any actions against those priests? Nothing was mentioned in this submit. So, though the submit was held for 4 days regarding the protection of minors, but what to say, that they did not come out with any concrete plan. But after the month after the submit, 3 documents were published for the Vatican City State only, the Vatican City where the Pope resides. Only for the Vatican City State, there were 3 documents. One is laws on the protection of minors in the Vatican City State, and motu proprio, which applies to the norms of the Roman Curia. For the Roman Curia, they had one norm. Then thirdly, for the guidelines for the Vicariate of Vatican. Vicariate means the Diocese of Rome. There was a law. So there was accusation against the submit that did not come out with concrete plans. But after 1 month, there were 3 documents came out only for Vatican City, Roman Curia, and also for the Diocese of Rome. The present document, what I'm going to deal with now, is one of the result of the Vatican submit. It finally provides answers to some of the questions posed against the problems that were disturbing the church during these past years. What are the accusations against submit? The submit did not speak about the bishops who are covering up, or what is the procedure to be followed in finding these cases, etc. But now Vatican comes out with this document, the present document, to answer both appropriate because it was given by the Holy Father himself. It is also a legislative format that is called it's a law. It's not mere exhortation, recommending. It's not recommendation, exhortation, a sermon like that. It is a legislative document, means a legal document which binds everybody. So nobody can escape from this document. You say, for example, exhortations we did not follow, but we follow because Pope says, but we are not going to be punished for that. That's called exhortation, recommendation. But this is a legal document. And Pope says we are having this legal document for 3 years so that we can see how it can be developed. It was given in 2019, now 20 over, this 21, third year. It concerns new measures to be adopted to prevent and fight against sexual abuse committed against minors. So first of all, the document is mainly for the prevention, how to prevent this sexual abuse of minors, and also fight against the abuse. If abuse takes place, how to take measures to fight against that one. About minors, first of all. Secondly, vulnerable persons. So there's something new here. Earlier, we always speak about sexual abuse of minors, But now this document says that abuse of minors plus also who are vulnerable. We'll speak afterward. I'll tell you what is called the word called vulnerable persons. Carried out with violence, threat, or abuse of authority. So, abusing this by abusing your authority. You are having authority, power. With your power, you are abusing the minors and also the vulnerable. Okay, understand this situation now in the church. Because some can abuse without power also. Some can abuse the minor vulnerable without any power. They are position. They are only a member of the, a priest or a cleric religious member. They abuse also, but they are also them to abuse because they have power. So the subjects will be very easily succumb to that and we'll deal about that. Earlier, the church dealt only with the cases of clerical abuse of minors. Important change. Earlier, we always say clerical abuse of minors. What is called cleric? Who is called cleric? Deacon, priest, and the bishop. So earlier we spoke about only clerical. Now, say clerical, it simply says now even the religious also included that. Even religious also can abuse the others who are not clerical. We call non-clerical religious. Also, for example, lay members or the sisters are called non-clerical members. They also included now in this document. Understand? So it's minor abuse case, the word is removed. To summarize the document, the beginning of the declaration of it establishes or reporting abuses and violence. Okay, the document is giving new procedures. Earlier, there was no procedure for these cases. You know what happened earlier? When somebody complains to the bishop, or when somebody complained to the provincial about a member of a priest or a religious abusing children, they simply, what did they do? They simply covered up. They put under the carpet. What to say? The complaint was put under the carpet means nobody took any action. Now there's a procedure for taking action against this kind of complaints. Secondly, it ensures that bishops and religious superiors are held accountable for their actions. What actions? Inactions. So if they don't take any action, the superiors of the religious congregations or the bishops, they will be tackled now. No, they will be tackled if they don't take any action. Recently also in Switzerland, to a bishop, somebody complained about the priest. Bishop kept quiet. He did not take any action. Now the bishop is dismissed. Though the act was done by, abuse was done by the priest, but since he did not take any action, now the bishop is dismissed, now only ordinary priest now. So the documents also ensures that the bishops and also religious superiors, don't think of only bishop, even the provincials, religious superiors or major superiors and the superior generals also held accountable if they cover up for their inaction. That is called inaction, not doing anything after getting complaint. And also this includes obligation of clerics and religious to report abuse. If you come to know any abuse in a community or the diocese or in any institution, you are now supposed to report. If you don't report also, you are held accountable. You will be punished for that. Somebody is doing abuse and you are a superior of you are principal of a school or a principal of a superior of a house and you are keeping quiet, you will be also held accountable. Held accountable means you can be punished for that. The person who abused plus also the superior is keeping quiet also can be accountable. It mandates the diocese, each diocese should have a system or setup that allows the public to submit reports of abuse easily. Earlier, people did not know whom to go and report. For example, in a parish, the parish priest abuses a child in the parish. Now, parents or those who know about it, now where to go and report now? To whom they have to report? I'm asking a question. Whom do they report now? To the bishop. Now, can you see the go and meet the bishop? It's very difficult to meet the bishop because bishop is you have to get appointment, and he's not free, and so many things are there. Now, the document says that there should be a system. A system means a place where they can go and give a report, not necessarily to the bishop because bishop is difficult to meet him. So also the religious congregation in the province or at the congregation level and also the province level, there should be a system wherein the complaints can be given very easily. That's the important. So that not necessary to go and ring up to the bishop or the bishop and the bishop get an appointment. Secretary will say, no, Archbishop is not available, come some other day. All those things will be eliminated. So easily they can go and, give complaint. In the province level also, there should be a system mechanism wherein the members can complain about some kind of abuse in the congregation. That's called, this is about the mechanism it speaks about. That's called system. The word called system, it says. The document says system wherein the complaint can be given easily. Now, I don't want to speak about the document, that the different articles are there. Now, the document is called You Are the Light of the World. That is the name of the Vos Estis Lux Mundi. Why Pope gives the document this name called You Are the Light of the World. In the introduction, Pope Francis observes that Lord Jesus Christ calls every believer to be a shining example of virtue, integrity, and holiness. All of us, in fact, are called to give concrete witness of faith in Christ in our lives, and in particular in our relationship with others. So each Christian is called to be a witness of Christ, especially in our personal life and also in our relationship with other people. We are called to be a witness. This call has a greater obligation on the clergy and the religious, who are called to be special witness of Christ, their master. Okay, every Christian is called to be holy. Every Christian, by baptism, we receive that holiness, called to holiness. But as priests and religious, we have got a special call to be holy. So clergy and religious are called to imitate Christ closely, the life and ministry of Jesus. We are called to follow the life of Christ and also ministry of Christ. Life means what? Resembling or poor, obedient, and chaste, which is very demanding. We can't be like Jesus. Can we be like Jesus in the world? It's very demanding, but we are called to be like Jesus, like obedient and also chaste and poor. And also we are called to the ministry of Christ. What Jesus did, doing like Jesus, very easy it is. You know, Jesus went village to village, what to say, curing the sick, helping the poor people, feeding them, etc. That is very easy to do for us, what Jesus did in action. But to be like Jesus in our life is very difficult and also very demanding. So Canon 5.7.5 says that evangelical counsels, chastity, poverty, and obedience are based on the teaching example of Christ. Thus, when a cleric or religious is chaste, poor, and obedient, he or she resembles Christ more closely. Now, we are all leaders, we are called. Every cleric is a leader. We call pastoral leadership. We are called pastorally, we are leaders, we are. But this leadership is also moral and ethical leadership. See, for example, we have chief minister. We have also MLAs, or we have ministers, MLAs. They too are leaders in the society. But they are only leaders in society outside, but they are not moral leadership. They don't have moral leadership in the sense they are CM. What is the work as chief minister? He should work for this, how to improve the development. Whether he has got it's no problem. He is supposed to minister for the state, for the welfare of the people. If it does that one, enough for us. What is doing at home and then the moral life, we don't bother about that. So that leadership doesn't need for, but though you know about what is, but for us, leadership and also ethical leadership. So we can't bypass the moral leadership. Moral leadership requires that clergy and religious live up to the standards of morality. So as a priest, what is my work? To celebrate sacraments. So I'm celebrating sacraments. Morally, I'm immoral. Can you do like that? No, we can't do like that. We have to be also, we have also moral leadership. They are called to be examples of morals of Christian moral virtues. They are the lights of the world. When they do not live up to their call, they become like the Pharisees whom Jesus condemned, saying one thing and doing one thing. So we are called to be moral leaders also in our ministry. So regarding some kind of clerical celibacy, because this whole document speaks about the celibacy. So 277 paragraph 1 says, clerics are obliged to observe perfect and perpetual continence. I'll explain to you after what is called continence, for the sake of the kingdom of heaven, and are therefore bound to celibacy. We are all called to be celibate. We are called to be celibacy is a special gift of God by whose sacred ministers can easily. Why you are celibate? To remain more close to Christ and also to serve the service of God and the neighbor. And again, another Canon 1037 says that clerics undertaking the obligation of, that's why we take during diaconate, we take the obligation of celibacy. And also the once again during ordination also we take the obligation of celibacy. Plus all the religious also, though you take the vow of celibacy, plus again during diaconate and also during the ordination also you take the once again the obligation of celibacy. So that is about the religious profess the evangelical counsel of chastity through public vows. If the clerics, they have to undertake obligation of celibacy also during the diaconate, not only your vow of celibacy. Now the terms what are going to use now here? Clerics, who are clerics? Deacons, they are called deacons, can be transitive deacons. Transitive means to become priest. They can be also permanent deacons, then priests, presbyters, and bishops. These are the term called cleric. Whenever the document says cleric, it is meant to deacons, priests, and the bishops. Now, what is called continence? We are called to have perpetual continence. Continence means in the order of physical behavior. It describes the non-use of sexual faculties. So we are called to follow, what is it, as the previous one said, no? We are called to perfect and perpetual continence. So continence means the non-use of sexual faculties. Perfect, fully, and also permanent. We are now called not to use at all our sexual faculty. That is called continence. That is, the continence can be also 4 types. One is called absolute continence. That is, absolute continence means with no one, that is with myself and with no one I should use my sexual faculties. That is called absolute continence. I should never use my sexual faculties with myself and also with other people. Secondly, relative continence, that is for the married people. So married people also, they are supposed to use the sexual faculties only with the other spouse, not with anybody else, only with other spouse. And even married people also, they can have temporary continence. Sometimes they can also, though they're married, they are also called to not use, they can restrict themselves with temporary continence. They need not also use sexual faculties. Perpetual, meant for clerics again, we are supposed to never use, perpetually never use the our sexual faculties. So absolute and perpetual meant for clerics, and relative and temporary continence meant for the married people. And what is called chastity? It is about moral order, to be chaste. That means it's a virtue. So when you follow continence, you follow the virtue of chastity. That is correctly ordering one's sexual faculties and right. Even the married people also can be chaste. That's why we call Saint Joseph, no, most chaste spouse, we say. So even the married people also can be chaste, not using them for themselves, but only the other spouse in the use. They are correctly following the sexual faculties. So they are called as chaste people. And when they have temporary continence also, they are called as chaste, because they are not using the sexual faculties always. Then celibacy is only a social legal status. That means we are not married. So not married is one thing, and being chaste is other one. See, all of us are not married. At the same time, we are called to be also to be chaste. Chaste means what to say, this non-use of our sexual faculty. That is the terms what are used here. Now, another canon speaks about social behavior. Clerics are to behave with a due prudence in relation to persons whose company can be a danger to their obligation of preserving continence, or can lead to scandal of the faithful. So again, canon law says that clerics have to be very prudently behave, especially with the other person, and also can be a scandal for other people. So in the company of other people, I may misuse my sexual faculties. So I have to be very careful in the company of the other people, which may also, when I don't follow continence, then it can cause also scandal. And for that also, bishop has got the obligation to see that the clerics are following the ecclesiastical law, and celibacy also a ecclesiastical law. So they have to be very careful to see that the members, for example, clerics, plus also the major superiors, also to see that the members are very careful in observing all the laws regarding the celibacy. Now, Pope John, this very important document, again, Pope Francis, on 4th June 2016, he gave an apostolic letter, motu proprio, come una madre amorevole, that is as a loving mother, the document name. It says, listen here, a bishop can be legitimately removed from the office, a punishment for the bishop. So Pope is very clear, lawfully from the office, if he has, through the negligence committed or through omission facilitated acts that have caused grave harm to others. Okay, maybe he himself committed, or inaction, he kept quiet. When priests do this kind of abuses, he kept quiet. So for that, he can be also removed lawfully. So same thing applies also to the very superiors or religious congregations. So if they keep quiet, either they do the abuse, or if they keep quiet also when some members does the abuse, so they can be also lawfully removed. The harm may be physical harm, moral, spiritual, through the use of money, etc. The harm can be done for other people. The diocesan bishop can be removed if he is objectively lacking in a very grave manner the diligence that his pastoral office demands of him, even without serious moral fault. Even the actually bishop did not, did not purposely keep quiet. He forgot to take action. He can be also removed. So some are purposely keeping quiet. Some are purposely keeping quiet. Some are without knowing they're keeping quiet. So both can be also removed. Understand? So the document says the punishment for the bishops if they keep quiet. In the case of abuse of minors and vulnerable adults, it is enough that the lack of diligence is be grave. They did not take any action. That is enough for them to be dismissed. The major superiors and of the religious institutes and also our Society of Apostolic Life. So even the provincials also, male superiors can be also tackled according to this document. They can be removed if they keep quiet, not take any action. Now, for the few penalties for regarding the in this line. So if we already told the cleric attempts marriage, he can be punished. We already said that. Not the sentence suspension. He can be deprived of the office, or also even by dismissal from the clerical state. So also, a religious in perpetual vows who is not a cleric but who attempts marriage, even if it's only civilly, incurs also last sentence here. Okay, about the sexual offences against celibacy. Apart from the case mentioned in 1394, a cleric living in concubinage. I told you concubinage means living with a married woman. A priest living with a deacon, priest or bishop living with a married woman. The cleric who continues in some other external sin against the sixth commandment of the Decalogue. So some other is what to say is continuing to live. They'll be punished with the suspension, means they lose the office. To other penalties can be also progressively can be added, and it can be dismissed also from the clerical state. See, a priest, for example, is having a relationship with a married woman in the parish. So punishment is now for the person dismiss suspension from the office. Office means the parish priest, but still a priest only is. So a priest who is having what to say this kind of relationship, he will be removed from the office. And he will be told that he has to give up that kind of life. If he continues to live the same life after also suspension from the office, he can be also dismissed from the clerical state. So the Pope also will dismiss him. See, the dispensation from our priesthood, from our celibacy, that one thing is, only I can ask for dispensation. I'm a priest now. If I'm not happy in my priesthood, what I can do, what I should do now if I'm not happy in the priesthood, write to the Holy Father, give a petition saying that, please give me what is a dispensation from the obligation of celibacy, and I want to go and marry. I can write. That's my right it is. But now, even Pope can give you that punishment by dismissing, by giving, they can impose the dispensation on you, saying that please pack up your things and go away. So till now, it was my right. Even Pope himself can impose on you that dispensation and tell you, please, you get out from here and priesthood and go and do whatever you want outside. So that is why that is one of the punishments given because of this, what to say, because of the committing abuse cases. Now, about these cases of abuse, there are documents. Early we had one document called Sacramentorum Sanctitatis Tutela was given in the 2001. Already a document came regarding the abuse, regarding many, one of the many grave delicts in the church. And also in the year 2001, one more document came called Normae De Gravioribus Delictis, to the ordinaries, especially the procedural norms, how to proceed these cases. Again, in the 2010, this document called Normae De Gravioribus Delictis was, what to say, little more modified. What is the document? I'll tell you. Now, regarding this document, it's good to know, you should know this are the delict. So when you say delict, it means crime we call. Crime also means some kind of, what to say, offense we call, offenses we commit. So those who throw away the consecrated host species for a sacrilegious purpose, taking them away or keeping them. So if you are consecrated host, you take in the church and throw them away for sacrilegious purposes. And you know, in Bangalore and all, we have got black masses. We have black mass, devil mass. People, what they do nowadays, they receive communion in hand. They don't consume immediately. They take it. They won't sell it. You know, some Bangalore, they sell the communion to the people who are having devil mass, black mass. No, they buy it for 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees. And they bought the host, to consecrate host, and everybody stamp on that. So if you are doing like that, that's one offense. You can, one thing, attempting a priest to celebrate mass. If you're not a priest, you're not a priest, you're not a deacon or a seminarian. You attempt to celebrate mass or pretending to do so like that. And also celebrating Eucharist with the ministers of ecclesial communities. You are celebrating Eucharist with the Protestant priests in the Protestant church. For example, CSA church, you go there and you join, celebrate for the communal service, what they have got in the church. And also consecrating either bread or wine without the other. Only bread you consecrate, or only the wine you consecrate without the other also. These are the grave delicts for which you have got the late sentencia suspension. You are suspended immediately because of these delicts. Now, regarding the confession also, if you absolve an accomplice a sexual sin, accomplice means you committed a sexual relationship with a person, and the same person comes to you for confession. Understood? I am a priest. I had a sexual relationship with one woman, and the woman comes to me for confession, asking for forgiveness, and I absolve the person. See, I am the one who did the sexual abuse. Again, the same person comes to me suspension, making a sexual advance in confession, or a boy comes to you for confession and he looks very handsome and beautiful like that. You tell him, you come to my room in the evening, you invite him for some kind of sexual abuse, and the boy tells, the youth told you in the confession some sexual sin, and you know that the boy he had done the sexual sin. And what do? You tell him, you come to my room this evening, you invite him. That is called making a sexual advance in confession, or the occasion of, on the pretext of confession, you tell him, you come to my room, you confess there. Now I have no time to confession. You know that he has done that work. You tell him, come in the evening to your room. So you are calling him. Or direct violation of the secrets of confession. If you are revealing the seal of confession to somebody else, you also have got the lathe sentency punishments. I'm speaking about the grave delicts that the law speaks about. First of all, before that, it speaks about the Eucharist. Now this is about the confession. Now, third one, it speaks about moral behavior of the priest. A delict against the 6th commandment of the Decalogue committed by a cleric with a minor below the age of 18. So, if you are also, committed a sin against 6th commandment with a, minor of this 18th year of age, then you're also having the lathe sentency, automatic punishments now. So, once again, this also improved now. The document was improved in 2010. I'll not go for that. Now, in the improved document of 2010, it speaks about, once again, the accomplice. In the Article 6, that's very important now. That is what I want to speak up to you. In the 2010, the document Norman Gaviolis Delictus gave an article explaining a little more what was given in 2001. What it says, listen, very important note. The more grave delicts against morals which are reserved to the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith are, first of all, a delict against the 6th commandment of the Decalogue committed by a cleric with a minor below the age of 18 years. In this case, a person who habitually lacks the use of reason is to be considered equal to a minor. So, a cleric committing a sexual abuse with a minor below the 18 age, one thing. It was earlier, it was 16 years old. Minor means 16 years old. Now they increase the age. Now they call minor means 18 years old. Minor. If you do any abuse to the minors, plus also those who are above 18, but mentally they are not all right. So they too come under the category of the minors. So senior person, a 30 years old youth, but he is mentally, handicapped. If I have sexual relationship with him, it comes under the case of minors only. It is not, though he is the age above the minors, though he is a major. Secondly, acquisition, possession, and distribution by a cleric of pornographic images of minors under the age of 14. So we are having acquisition means you acquire, you go and buy. You know, there are many shops that sell this kind of materials. Pornographic materials. You go and acquire them. Acquire them means buying them and possessing them. You keep with you in your room, in your computer. You keep, and also distribute this. You send in the WhatsApp or some in a computer. No, you distribute this kind of materials of pornographic images of minors under the age of 14. Those minors photos you are having in your computer, you buy them, possess them, or distribute them. And also, for what purpose you are keeping in your computer? Why do you buy these pictures, these kind of videos? Why do you? For your sexual gratification, for your sexual, self-satisfaction, by whatever means or using whatever technology. So by seeing them in the computer, and so you make use of these images, videos, and you have a self-gratification, sexual gratification. So if you possess this also, then you come under the punishment in the punishment according to this document. And also a cleric who commits the delicts mentioned in the first paragraph to be punished according to the gravity of this crime, not excluding dismissal from or deposition. So for this, you can be suspended first. What the law says is that you can be suspended. Law says sentence a suspension. You are suspended from your office. But also, if it is more grave, more scandal, you can be also dismissed from what to say, dismissal or deposition from the office or from the clerical state. Also, you can be dismissed if you have got for two things. One is having relationship, sexual relationship with the minors of below 18 years of age. Of this, what is the images of the pornographic images of the children who are below 14 years. Now, let us speak about the elements of this sexual abuse of minors. First of all, a minor means 18 years old. Don't small children means, don't think small children. Small children means 18 years old. You are having relationship with a minor, what to say, who has not completed the 18 years of age. Or a person who is habitually lack use of reason. That person is mentally incapable, not all right. So if I have sexual relationship with him, he doesn't come under minor. No, he also comes under only minor. External, objectively grave violation of the sixth commandment. It should be external violation. When you say sexual abuse means you are externally abusing other person. It is also a direct abuse. That is called a physical contact. You are having physical relationship with the minor. That is called a physical direct abuse. It can be also indirect abuse. That means showing pornographic materials to the minors. You call a room and show him all the materials you have got to the child, exposing the materials just to the minor. It also comes under this sexual abuse. That is called indirect abuse. It need not be a complete act of intercourse. Not necessary to have intercourse with a woman. Not necessary. It can be also, as I said, no, it can be external touching. It can be physical contact, touching or kissing, etc. will come inside. Or showing the pictures also can be a abuse. Not necessary should have a complete act of intercourse. And need not involve force or physical contact or a discernible harmful outcome. Not necessary. Oh no, I had intercourse with the child, that girl, she didn't become pregnant. Not necessary. There is not necessary any harmful outcome. Not necessary come. What to say? Not necessary force also. Even without force also, you can have a abuse. You can abuse the children. Sometimes you force to abuse the children, or without force also, the children come to your room. Since you're a parish priest, they come to your room and you, what to say, abuse the child. There's no force there. You simply abuse. That point which comes here in this, what to say, in this case of use. And downloading of pedophile pornography. If you download also and from internet or social media and possess. So one is acquiring, buying something, or something you are downloading from the YouTube and keeping in a computer. This also offense only here. Not simply say, no, I just kept in the computer. That also you come under this, what to say, abuse of minors. Lastly, acquisition of pornographic images of minors below 14 years. Now, this is the background. Speak about the abuse. Who can be abused and what kind of case come also under abuse. Not only physical relationship, plus also acquiring, possession, and distribution of these materials. Now, this the new document speaks about the delicts against sixth commandment of the Decalogue, consisting of forcing someone by violence or threat or through abuse of authority to perform or submit to sexual acts. So it can be, you can have free, okay, because the person doesn't cooperate. What do you do now here? You force someone by violence or threat, or also you are using your authority. Since you are parish priest, the child, you called the child, you came to the child came to your room. Why the child came to your room? Because you are a parish priest. So you are using authority. Your authority to perform or submit to you are performing, or you are making the child to submit for your sexual activity, or performing sexual activity minor or vulnerable person, and also production, etc. These are the, what to say, the document. Once again, that this document repeats what was given in the 2010 document exactly here. Now, secondly, this about the sexual abuse. Now, there's also on the part of the superiors. Let us say what the superiors can do now here. Superiors can do again two things. One is they too can abuse some children, minors. One thing, they also can keep quiet. That is very important. That's what the document says now. If the superiors are keep by the conduct, by the conduct, they are keeping quiet. So they can be also punished by this document. So how they keeping quiet? They consisting of actions or omissions. They are not taking any action. They are keeping quiet. Or when a parent come to you, bishop, the superior or the provincial, the parents come to you and tell, my child was abused by a religious or a diocesan priest. What do you say? And they want to go to the civil court. They want to give police complaint. What do? You try to cover up. and you tell them, if you go to police means I'll take action against you. Something kind of threatening them. That is also called omission. You are interfering with that to avoid civil investigations. And so if you do like that, or a case is given to you, some complaint is given to you, police come to you next tomorrow, bishop or a superior, you are given you have the papers now, documents, they come to you, police, and you don't want to cooperate with the police. That is also called as avoiding the civil investigations or canonical investigations. A case is filed against the priest, they come to you for some kind of clarification. Bishop, you keep quiet, you don't cooperate, you can be also punished for this. So in that way, even the superiors also for their inaction or action or inaction, if they don't take any action or keep quiet, they can be also punished for this. When you say minor means, I told you, below 18 years of age, and also who are equal to minor means those who are mentally incapable also, they are called minors. Now, vulnerable person means any person in a state of infirmity, physical or mental, is called mental deficiency, or deprivation of personal liberty. That is called vulnerable person. And the child pornography means any representation of minor, regardless of means used, involved explicit sexual activities, either real or stimulated, or any representation of sexual organs of minors, or primarily for sexual purposes. Now, I told you the code, this document speaks the word called vulnerable. Something new here in this document, which was not there earlier. Minor means we know what is called, sir, a person who is under the authority of someone. That is called vulnerable. Anybody can be vulnerable when you're under the authority of somebody. For example, in the office, superior and inferior situations. In the office, my boss is there. I am working in the office. My boss, so I am vulnerable because if I don't listen to my authority, if my boss, what to say, abuses me, if I object to that abuse, what happens now? Let's see, I am in the office, for example, I'm working in the office. My boss in the office wants to abuse me. If I say no, what will happen to me? I'll be dismissed. So that is called vulnerable. So let us come to our level. I have a cook in my parish house. A cook is very poor lady, and I'm helping the cook for the children education, and solely depends on me. I'm helping in the family. If I want to have a sexual relationship with the cook, though the cook is already majority, she's on 30 years old. If I ask for a sexual relationship and she says no, what will happen to her? What I may do? I may dismiss her because you're not cooperating with me. So she's a vulnerable person. Understand now? So the new document speaks of vulnerable means not children. Don't think about only minors. Even the persons under authority, they can be also vulnerable. If that lady complains to the bishop about my sexual relationship with her, it is abuse. It is abuse given by a vulnerable person, though the person is not minor, she is major, she is. And also economic dependency, same thing also. A boy is studying in the college in my parish. He's an orphan boy. He has got a widow, mother is widow, very poor. I'm educating him, he's studying MBA. So it's on me. Though the person is more than minor, is a major now. So a child is called for abuse. Used in the previous documents. The previous documents on sexual abuse, they used always what to say, minors, only minors of 18 years below. But now this document also added one more word called minors plus vulnerable. So vulnerable means, I will explain once again. Vulnerable means not only the minors plus also under the authority of someone through office, a superior and also inferior. The situation also becomes vulnerable. Though the person can be also a major, he becomes vulnerable when you're under somebody as a superior. Secondly, you are depending economically on somebody. As I told you, a boy, a youth, is major youth, 25 years old, he is studying MBA and you are paying for all his fees. And when you ask him to come for sexual relationship, he will not refuse that, because it depends on, if you refuse means you will not help him economically. So he comes and cooperates with the sexual abuse. Thirdly, you're a person of trust. As I told you, a parish priest. Everybody thinks the parish priest is a very good person, like a father. When you call a youth or somebody to come to his room, they'll come surely, because it's a father. No, father is calling, I should not say no at all. A parish priest is a big man in the parish. I go, and he comes to you because he's got respect for you as parish priest, and you have a sexual relationship with him. So you become also vulnerable. Though you are above 18 years old, you also become vulnerable person. So this is something new in this document. And persons vulnerable who are under the people cannot resist their authorities' abuse. That is the meaning of that. So vulnerable persons cannot refuse the the invitation of the authority for sexual relationship. The persons vulnerable who are under these people have no personal liberty, even if they want to resist the abuse. Even if they want to not to cooperate with you, but they have no other go except to cooperate, because they depend on you, either economically or under the authority, or for your good trust, the trust they have because of your position. They can't say no. They have to cooperate by all means. So they become vulnerable. In this context, this document also includes seminarians and also religious nuns in the list of vulnerable. You are a rector of the particular formation house, or you are a rector of a superior of a particular house. So you have got seminarians under you. Maybe the formation house, or maybe you're a parish priest, seminarians come to you, your parish for ministry, some holiday ministry, or the parish seminarians are from that parish. So they also come, if you invite them, seminarians, or if you invite a religious nun for a sexual relationship, and they will say, they can't say no because they're afraid of you, because they're seminarians. If they say no means they will be dismissed. You will give them a wrong report and you'll be dismissed. So they're afraid of you. So they come under the vulnerable. Even nuns also, they come on because they are so vulnerable in the sense they can't say no to you, because you may do something against them. In the sense you give complaint to the superior about a sister, and so she can be dismissed. So they come on also that term called vulnerable. That's why I said this document is very important for this term called vulnerable. Besides minors, this document gives the word vulnerable for the abuse cases. Now, regarding delicts committed against the sixth commandment of the Decalogue, who can commit the offenses, these abuses? The clerics. So the document speaks about the delicts committed by deacons, priests, and bishops, plus also the religious brothers and sisters. Okay. So we are not worried about lay people. For example, I am a principal of a school. As a priest, I am principal. A teacher commits abuse. Do they come under this document? No, it is not for them. It is Pope is giving the document mainly for the clerics and also for the religious, because of all these days these cases are not taken up. The main accusation against the church was that Pope is shielding the clerics. That's why the accusation against the accusation only we have this new document. Pope is the church is shielding the clerics and religious about their abuse cases. So against the clerics and also religious, they are the ones who commit this. If they commit abuse, they come under this document. They can be punished. Now, covering up. One is called committing the abuse. Okay, clerics, bishop, and deacons are bishop, priests are religious. Now, other one is called covering up. Who are the ones who cover up the abuse cases and they can be punished? As I told you, cardinals, patriarchs, bishops, and legates, and also clerics who are heads of particular church or personal ordinance. So those who are having some position in the church, and also the supreme moderators of the ICL and also SAL, and also the monasteries, etc., with respect to the committed Durante Pura. So even the religious superiors also come under this for inaction and for omission. They can be punished. Okay, so this is also something new in this new law. The previous laws only spoke about the abuse of clerics. The new law speaks about the vulnerable plus also the inaction of the superiors. Acts or omissions, inactions of the superiors. So if they keep quiet also, they can be punished. That's something new, because again the accusation was that the church authority was shielding the clerics. So since they are shielding the clerics, they too can be punished. The authority who are shielding the clerics or their action under inaction. So in this situation, I told you once again, people don't know where to go and report. You know, people when there's something committed in the parish, a parish priest or religious, where to go and report now? We have to go to the bishop only. We have to go and report to the bishop. But bishop is not available. People are afraid to go to the bishop and tell because we don't know. They are afraid to speak to bishop or meet bishop. So this document says that in the diocese there should be a mechanism of informing, the reporting the abuse. Every diocese should have a a responsible person in the diocese to whom the report can be given. Besides the bishop, there should be also other people who can be appointed in the church, it can be a vicar general, it can be also one priest in the diocese, or it can be the province level, some the provincial superior, somebody else, priest can be also appointed only for this. Now, where the abuses can take place in the church. First of all, abuses can take place in the school. Okay, that is a main place, you know, abuses can take place. Victims could be the teachers, non-teaching staff, and also the students. So clerics, we are speaking about clerics now here. Clerics, deacons, or priests, or bishops, and religious. So we are, for example, the clerics and religious are normally what we are in the school. We are the principal of the school, or headmaster of a school, or can be a teacher in the school. As a teacher, also a headmaster or a principal, I can abuse the other teacher also. In what category it comes now? If I abuse the teacher, what category they come now? Vulnerable under the authority, office superior and inferior. That category will come under if I abuse a teacher. Or I can abuse also non-teaching staff in the school. They to come under a category of dependency. They depend on me, otherwise they can be dismissed. Or also I can also abuse the students because it comes under the persons of trust, because they respect the priest in the school as a headmaster or principal or a teacher. So if I can abuse all those people, and they come under the vulnerable cases. If I'm working in a kindergarten school or a primary school, they come under the minors because the children are below 18 years old. Or high school also, they can come under minor age. Also hospitals. The religious are in the hospital. The religious are working in hospitals. They too can abuse the other staff members because office, they're dependent on the superior and inferior. That kind of relationship is there. Or there can be also nurses, other workers, and patients because of economic dependency or persons of trust you are. So that there can be also the abuse can take place, vulnerables, and also social welfare centers, home for aged, home for the physically, mentally retired victims could be the staff, inmates, and social workers, poor people, children. In the parish houses and the religious houses of men and women, victims could be cooks and the children, because they have all the economic dependency on you. Other workers, children, youth, adults, seminarians, and also religious sisters. So all this can become, all these people come under vulnerable. And formation houses, victims could be formees, staff, and also the supportive staff in the formation houses. They can also come under vulnerable. So you can see now how the abuses cases are not only for minors, but also with the vulnerable people. Now, as I said now, every diocese or every province should have a mechanism to receive the complaints. Okay, so easy way, help to the victims and to come and complain without any fear. That is called mechanism. So there should be a person responsible to receive the reports, and when the victim comes to you with a complaint, petition, they should be welcomed, and also you should receive the petitions. If you don't receive petition, what happens now? It becomes an act of omission. You can be punished for that also. So you need not be the one who abused, but you are having a position in the particular area. When somebody, for example, in the diocese, the bishop says, okay, Vicar General, you are the person to receive the petitions. He says like that. And when somebody comes to Vicar General to give the petition of abuse case of a priest, the Vicar General should receive the petition. Don't scold them and send them away. Why you are coming here to complain about the priest? I know the priest is very good priest. He is. How can I come here? You scold and send. You should not scold and send like that. You should receive the petitions, and also you should give also to the victims psychological, spiritual, and medical assistance to the victims if they want. And also you should help the victims to write the complaint. They come and tell orally to you, saying that we are done like that. I have got an abuse case. It happened also in our seminary. Nothing to hide there. A few 2-3 years ago, a seminarian was going for pastoral ministry to a parish in the Bangalore Archdiocese. A deacon was going for ministry, and what happened? He was as a third year theologian was going for ministry, and Okay, it's third year now, but third year now. Okay, now he became third year when he went for ministry. He came to a boy in the parish. He came to know the boy because a poor boy. Somehow he was talking like that. He came to the boy's poor boy, and the seminarian was helping him. He was helping him with some things and all. When he became deacon, the same seminarian became deacon, and the boy came once to see him in the seminary. The deacon took him to his room, which is not allowed in the seminary. We can meet only the students in the parlor, outside. But the deacon took him to the room, and the boy told the deacon, brother, can I come to your room? Is it allowed? He said, no problem. You come to my room, no problem. He said. He took him, and something happened there. So here, what to say? The boy came afterward. After the boy, something happened, and he went out. And afterwards, he came to complain to the rector. He told orally what happened. The deacon. The rector told him to give in writing, helped him to give in writing. So when the victim comes to you with the abuse case, when they complain orally, it should also help the victim to help them to give in writing, because for a procedure we need something in writing. So we should not, send them away, scold them, put the blame on the children, and support the priest, that you should not do all those things. You should welcome them and also give them psychological help or some material helps also, some medical help if is needed, it can be given also. So the system in every province or the diocese, what they should do, they collect the complaints, assess them, and also obtain cooperation from other members also, and also request the place wherein took place their help also to build up the file. Now, who can complain? The victims can complain also. Okay, so in the diocese, because province is a very small province, the diocese level, you should have different mechanisms, systems to receive the complaints. I told you. So there was schools, one system, somebody is in charge. For the parishes, somebody is in charge. For the hospitals, one person in charge. Or for parishes, one person in charge. Or formation of one person in charge to receive the complaint. That is called system we have to keep in the diocese. So I want to stop here a little bit and ask any question you have got till now, what you spoke about this abuse cases and the complaints and the systems. Then we'll go to something else afterwards. Okay. Yeah.
So far, we have seen this elements in the abuses can be physically, directly or indirectly. Is there any law given people those are abusing virtually by means of texting in the mobile or sending some messages in the mobile?
Yeah, that's why he said no. See, we said once here, it's not earlier. It's only called abuse, physical abuse, direct abuse. It was now that this document speaks about accusation, buying, possession, and also sharing with somebody else. That all comes under that.
His messaging is not doing anything. Just is messaging that particular victim. Only through messages is abusing, but though she doesn't lie or he doesn't lie, people are sending messages.
See, what not any pictures and not any pictures are about only
pictures, only through message.
Through message, only words you are saying, only words. So it doesn't speak. The document doesn't speak about the words. It says only pornographic materials. Pornographic material means images of children below 14 years old. That is, it come under that. What you speak about the sending messages. Sometimes what happens? The same deacon, what happened now? After that incident, he was sending messages. I want to kiss you. I love you. This and that. Those kind of messages came afterward. That is not very serious actually. They don't come under the document. They don't come under abuse. Because the document says that possessing and buying, possessing and also sharing with the pornographic images of children below 14 years. Not about the messages you send. Doesn't come under that.
There is no particular one because the opposite one he doesn't like that. Still a kind of abuse, right?
Abuse, but doesn't come under this kind of abuse for this kind of according to the document for dismissal doesn't come here. You can give complaint. You can give complaint to complaint in the sense of not under this document. You can give some other complaint to police, etc. Somebody's RS email like that. That will go to something else, but not here in the according to this document. You can't give a complaint to the bishop saying that you are pleased. You can give complaint. There's no problem, but the bishop will not take action again under this document. He may take action against you for provincial can take action against you for calling and telling you that you are supposed to about your rights and obligations, etc. But doesn't come under this document.
speaking about the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Supposing there was a consensual relationship between people, neither of them were vulnerable. But in course of time, one gets to a position, let's say two siblings, one sister and one brother, they are in love with each other. Later on, that brother, they continue the consensual it was. Then he ends up becoming a parish priest, and she's working in that. Will this document support her? Because the relationship started when they were, neither of them was vulnerable. So do you think that it would be advantageous to her because it's got vulnerable, because in course of time it's consensual?
Okay. The document doesn't speak about consensual relationship. So that's one point. What happens now? That is all. That is one of the drawback of this document is that you know, a parish priest and a woman in the parish, they are both are consensualities. They are not. She is cooperating willingly. Now, what action to be taken? Okay, he became superior afterwards, but after becoming a parish priest, still he continues the continues the relationship. But but you have to see, the problem comes when the sister complains only. See, there should be when the sister complains. For example, the sister complains to you to the bishop saying that, you know, now is earlier I cooperated. Somehow we had consensual. Now his parish priest is complaining to me, is compelling me, and you know, I don't want to have like that. That when she complains, the problem comes. If you don't complain, what in India there are many cases which are not complained. Which are not complained. So we can't take action against those who are which are not complained.
So in that case, the government doesn't speak about reporting by other members.
No, even see, the complaint, just complaint should be there.
No, what I'm asking is that suppose cover up will
see, when the cover up comes further, when you get the complaint, when you cover up. Cover up doesn't come up before itself. When you give what is fixed, that the authority get a complaint and they cover up. They put under the carpet the complaint. Then you'll be taken to what
so there is no mandatory reporting it and seeing it on your own. That doesn't speak about it.
Doesn't speak about that. So, see, okay, let us examples. I don't want example. I'm saying, yeah, in my parish is having a relationship with the woman. You know the sense. If I give complaint to the bishop, then see, the victim should complain always. Normally, the victim complains to the bishop, the victim. But other people, but in some dioceses, what happened now? For example, Bellary diocese and Shimoga diocese also, we made a rule now that even third person can complain also to the bishop. A third person can also complain to the bishop about the clerical abuse of minors. Because the minor may not be, the minor was so afraid, or vulnerable person was so afraid, he did not complain to the bishop. He's keeping quiet. It happens normally. The vulnerable person will not complain. They'll keep quiet always because economic dependence, etc. Now, third person, if he complains to the bishop, now the problem will come here. A third person complains to the bishop about the abuse. Now how to certify this? Now you have to call the vulnerable person and ask, is it true like that? I will complain. What they will say, vulnerable person? What they will say now usually? Nothing. My father is a parish priest like God for me. He looks after me, everything. They say like that. Now the whole case is gone there. The whole case goes away. That's why in India we have many cases, but they are not complaining to the authorities. So third person can complain also, no problem. If they complain, if they don't cooperate, the vulnerable person should cooperate. If they don't cooperate, the whole thing, we can't go ahead with the case. Or somebody ask anybody else? Okay.
One is clarified that third person complaining, that's the first point out. Second thing is, we have a lot of gray area in case of direct abuse, apart from like missing and having to also in Europe, it's very visible. The touches kind of body parts are touched intentionally in a sexual way. So like we have something on that, like somebody they touch cheeks or with a hand or some part. Normally, people can perceive what kind of intention this person is having, especially as a being parish priest or whatever the post you want. The way you want to like show your affection. There's a lot of play here in Indian context to patting people or encouraging, like in touch. So there also can be some people have that kind of intention. Touching also can be sexual play.
Yeah. That's what, see, it all depends upon the victim, what complaint that victim gives to the authorities. So you might have done something like that, but the victim feels like that. I am sexually abused by the touching, etc. So they give the what is it? Though the document doesn't go in detail regarding the abuse. See this, the document says always only abuse, abuse, abuse only. Doesn't say anything little more than what is called abuse. That is not, doesn't what to say define or abuse. Okay. It only says the second one is acquiring, possession, and distribution. One thing about abuse doesn't say what abuse means. Abuse means kissing abuse or what to say or embracing abuse. That document doesn't go into detail. But yeah, I will speak about that now. Regarding that kind of abuse, where is the limit to say what is abuse? How to say abuse now? Yeah, girl says to the bishop, what to say abuse like that. Now for that, I'll just go see. I want to speak about POCSO Act. Little bit of it. We have got civil law for that. Civil law is very, 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 very what to say stringent act it is. Please nowadays the children are vulnerable, can go and complain anything about us. So please be careful. They are saying one judge came to a seminary to give a talk. He said, fathers, I'm telling you, be careful with the children or vulnerable in your parish, because the POCSO Act simply can what to say file a case against you for anything. Even touching a child also can come under a POCSO Act. They said very careful, be very careful regarding your relationship with the children. Though since we have no much time, I'll go for what to say POCSO Act, what it speaks about. Now, what kind of, as I said, abuse, when you say abuse, what is called abuse according to civil? So we can borrow from the civil law. For Canada also, we can borrow something from civil law to say what is called abuse. One is called penetrative sexual assault. Penetrative means a man penetrates his penis to any extent into the vagina, mouth, or urethra or anus of a child and make the child to do so with him or any other person. You are having a penetrative sex with the other person, the child, or you are making the child to have a penetrative sex with you, or you are telling the child to have a penetrative sex with the other person. You are there in front of you. So it can be also one kind that is called penetrative sex. So that is called the insertion of the male organ into the child mouth, vagina, or urethra or anus of the child. So you are having or making the child to have with you, or having the child to have somebody else. So it also what to say about this, the punishment is for that not less than 10 years. Your imprisonment not less than for 10 years. If it is below 16, between 20 years to life. If the child is below 16 years, what to say, or between 20 years of, okay, that is punishment. Then aggravated penetrative sex. One is called normal penetrative sex abuse. One more is called aggravating. That means little more, with the force you are doing. One is with consent, you are without any, the child accepts your penetrative sex. One thing. Second is the child doesn't want to, but you aggressively you penetrate. That is the second kind of. Then one third is called non-penetrative sexual assault. This is called doesn't involve penetration, but commonly referred as non-penetrative touch-based offense. You are touching and kissing and embracing, all those things. It will come under that. That also touching the vagina, touching the penis, anus, or breast of the child, or making the child touch one of your parts, etc. Or or touch the other person. You are there. You are making the child touch the other person's parts. That comes under non-penetrative sexual assault. This also is punishment for that. Less than 3 years. I mean, actually also about 5 years. Then aggravated, not penetrative sexual assault also. So here you are not penetrating, but you are forcing the child for abuse. So the child doesn't want to, but no penetration, but still you force the child for example, unwelcome sexual remarks, emails, telephone calls. You see here, this comes under civil law. What you ask, no? If you are sending some kind of unwelcome sexual remarks, emails, telephone calls, you can be also come under this POCSO Act. Counting, hearing demands or requests for sexual favors, saying any word or make a sound or gesture or showing any part of the body object of the child. So saying a word or some kind of sound showing any part. So this also comes under civil law, can be aggravated, non-penetrative. Making the child to show his body or part of his or her body. Showing any object in any form of pornographic purposes. Following the child repeatedly or watching or contacting the child directly through other means. Or enticing the child for pornographic purposes, giving gratification. Okay. Use of minor for you take pictures of the children for pornographic pictures. You are taking the children's photos. It comes under also that involved in child preparation, production, and distribution of pornography. And also you are instigating a person to commit an offense and conspiring to commit offense. Okay. Then this also comes, there is also open, some kind of also the called forms of contact sexual abuse of minors, open mouth kissing and handling or fondling the sexual parts of the other person, and also oral sex you are having with the children, and also frottage. Frottage means, for example, you are traveling the bus, somebody sitting next to you, and the person is having clothes. You are sitting at the next person. The person is wearing clothes, and you touch the person's private organs, though it is clothed, and getting a sexual gratification. That is called frottage. So and the person complains that you don't do anything else. You did not directly touch the physical parts, indirectly, because the clothes are there. But among the pant is wearing the pant, for example, you are touching the other person's private organ. That is also comes under frottage. Or pornography, child participates in the making of sexual explicit videos of pictures, intercourse, anal course, or bestiality also. Sexual acts with the animals can come under this also. Sexual comments, exhibitionism, showing yourself, and voyeurism. That is, you are watching somebody else sexual act, or you're watching somebody else sexual organs and getting sexual gratification. That also comes under these forms of non-contact. You're not contacting with anything with the person, nothing to the person. This is called non-contact sexual abuse of minors. This is also coming, showing a pornographic films or videos, etc. So here in the POCSO Act, if you are, for example, mainly it comes in the schools. For example, in the school, a teacher is abusing a child, and you're a principal of a school, and you are failure to report the offense. If you don't report the offense, as a principal, if you don't report the offense, punished with the imprisonment of either description, which may extend to 6 months, the fine, or with both. So you can be punished for that. You have nothing to do with that. A teacher abused a child in the school, and the child complained to you as principal, and you're keeping quiet. And for that, that says you can be also punished with 6 months of imprisonment. And also there are other punishments also for the, now our CBCI in India, People's School Conference, has given a few guidelines for this kind of sexual abuse cases. First of all, petition duly written and signed. When somebody complains, they should give in writing. No oral, don't accept any oral petitions. You should always receive a written petition. And the child doesn't know how to give, means you help the child to give a written petition, and also the child should sign. Primarily, preliminary inquiry committee. Immediately, the bishop hears about the abuse case. What he should do? He should appoint a preliminary inquiry committee to find out whether it is true or not. In prima facie evidence, if it is true, after finding, the committee finds out that it is really true, it happened, then what happens now? The bishop will send the letter, the petition to the CDF, that is called Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith. They will send to the congregation, and also pending. So in the meantime, the bishop will tell the priest, cleric, to go for administrative leave. So as soon as you get a complaint, the bishop tells the parish priest or any cleric that you should go for administrative leave. That means you should go and stay in some particular place, a monastery, and you should not celebrate mass, celebrate sacraments publicly, etc. Bishop will tell him you should not go out of the particular campus, etc. Then CDF will respond. Well, the CDF will say, okay, bishop, now you proceed there, start the process. See, listen here, what happened. First, bishop will receive petition, and bishop will appoint a committee to make sure that the petition is true. Then once he makes sure that the petition is true, that then he will send to the CDF, Congregation to Rome, and they will tell you proceed the case now. In the meantime, the priest will be sent for administrative holidays. Then bishop will appoint now called a sexual offense committee, and they will find out whether really the sexual offense took place. The sexual offense committee will call the child and ask how the sexual abuse took place, etc. And the bishop will give a decree now. Then right of the decree of dismissal. Bishop will give a decree of dismissal of the priest, and the priest can go for appeal to the CDF. If the priest says that I'm innocent, everything is made of a story, somebody made a story against me because they don't like me, and he can go for appeal to the CDF. Then in the same case, cooperation of the bishop when he investigates. Okay, bishop appoints a committee called Sexual Offense Committee for investigation. If the child or parents complain to the police, and the police come to you as a bishop or has come to you as a superior, if they come and ask you, we come to know that they are given a complaint to you about a child abuse by a cleric or by a religious, we want some kind of help. you should cooperate with that. You should cooperate with the civil investigation authorities. You should not say police. This is nothing to do with the police. The child, this is a church issue. Is a priest or religious. We will deal with that. You don't come inside. You can't tell like that. You have to cooperate with the civil authorities, because if you don't cooperate, what happens now? You come under the POCSO Act. Now POCSO Act will come inside and will arrest you also for that. So in that way, you have to cooperate with the civil authorities also. That is what the bishops have given a simple, they have given simple procedure how to go about when a bishop or a provincial superior receives a complaint about the religious or a cleric regarding a sexual abuse case. So receive the petition and appoint a preliminary committee to find out that it is true or not. Then send the papers to CDF. The meantime, you give a administrative leave to the person concerned, the cleric concerned. When the CDF tells you, go ahead with the procedure. You appoint a sexual inquiry committee, and with that you give a decree saying dismissal of the particular religious or particular cleric. Then the civil authority comes to you for any cooperation, any kind of materials. You have to cooperate with them. So that is the simple procedure given by the CBCI, the Bishops' Conference. Now I want to close with this last remark. This is indeed a great step of the church towards clarity and transparency, and is something that obliges all inside the church, the priests and the religious, to observe this type of transparency. Now, what happens now? The main thing is about transparency. The church was accused of hiding everything, closing everything. People always in America and all, especially in the States, the main complaint was that church was covering up everything, not making it transparent. What they are doing earlier, bishops, if a complaint was given against a parish priest, bishop, what he will do? He will transfer him to other parish. They never took any action. They always covered up everything. Now the document gives a transparency. That is what is the beauty of this document. What to say? Transparency means everything is known to people now. Everything is made public now. Though the law brings a clarity to this issue of minor abuse, there are several questions to be answered still. Perhaps after the 3 years of experimental period, the church will be able to answer them. One of the point is there about the consensual sexual relationship. The court doesn't. This document doesn't speak about that. So when there is a consensual relationship, when a third person gives a complaint, what to do now? Maybe in the next document it may speak about that, because there are many cases of consensual sexual relationship and it's causing a scandal. But nobody can do anything, because we give a complaint. The party may not give accept that they have sexual relationship. That's why the next document may speak about that. This is indeed a great step of the church towards, Nevertheless, Pope Francis hopes this law will bring in positive effects. The crimes of sexual abuse offend our Lord. The Pope speaks about that. The crimes of sexual abuse offend our Lord, cause physical, psychological, and spiritual damage to the victims, and harm the community of the faithful. In order that these phenomena in all their forms never happen again, a continuous and profound conversion of hearts is needed, attested by concrete and effective actions that involve everyone in the church, so that personal sanctity and moral commitment can contribute to promoting the full credibility of the gospel message and the effectiveness of the church mission. This becomes possible only with the grace of the Holy Spirit poured into our hearts, as we must always keep in mind the words of Jesus, "Apart from me, you can do nothing." That is what he speaking. This is taken from the document called Mosestis Lux Mundi. Okay. So the POCSO Act, I didn't explain much because there's no time now. The POCSO Act also very, very stringent it is. So whatever you do, the POCSO Act says no, simple messages also, simple touching also. You may feel simple touching. The child may say it is a non-penetrative sexual activities. So anything can come under that. Anything what you do to the child, it can come under the POCSO Act. Okay. Anybody, any 1 o'clock now? A few minutes for clarifications. Yeah. Yes.
So now that this also comes only to the minors, right?
POCSO doesn't speak about the vulnerable. So POCSO speaks only about the minors. Yeah.
Then, for example, if the parents complains to the bishop, only to the bishop, not to the police authority. The duty of the bishop to complain to the police.
Okay, that is also one point. There is no clarification. Is the bishop needed to voluntarily go and tell the police? He's like telling the bishop voluntarily is going. The parents don't want to. They didn't tell the police. Is bishop compelled to go and tell voluntarily to the police? That is one doubt is there. So though the document says that you should complain also to police, but you know, in India, the bishops don't speak about that. In the Indian bishops guidelines of India, they say if the police come to you for any clarification, then you cooperate with them. You don't go and give complaint. Though it is not the meant of the document. The document is that in Europe, what they do in America and Europe, as they get abuse case complaint, immediately give complaint to the police also. That is in Europe they do. But normally, what is to be done? We are supposed to inform them, because POCSO Act says that if you don't complain, you can be also taken into consideration, taken into action. That is what it says. But if you give complaint, no problem. It's good. It's good to give complaint to the police also, that you will be safe. You will be safe from tomorrow. You will not be what to say. You will not be condemned that you have covered up the case like that. Okay. But the bishops don't speak about that. Bishops don't say. They don't mention that you don't give complaint immediately to the police. Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. Not just you from. Can you just speak about the enforcement secret? Whether a priest can reveal in this issue.
Yeah. Okay. So now this another document came from Holy Father. That which one more document came last year from the Holy Father regarding the inviolability of the seal of confession. Inviolability. We can't reveal the seal of confession. In continuation of this document, one more document came now. See, in states and Australia, civil laws were passed. Civil law, California civil law, and Australia also civil law is passed that when somebody confesses in the confession about the abuse, a child abuse case, about a person, a child, for example, let us say a child comes to a priest and tells the priest that somebody abused me. Okay, so the priest confessor knows the person who abused the child. Is he bound to reveal that? When the police comes to you and asks you, the child made a confession to you, what did the child tell you? Who is the person who abused the child? Are you bound to reveal the secret? That is the document has come now. One more document that is called inviolability of the seal of confession. We are not bound to reveal. So the seal of confession, we are not bound to reveal. This matters. But the civil law says that. Civil law in California and Australia says that if police come and ask you, or the court ask you to reveal, you are supposed to reveal. It says like that. You are supposed to reveal, but we are not supposed to reveal the secret.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. So the brother asked me, when in the confession, if the victim comes and tells the confessor about the abuser, is the priest bound to reveal the name of the abuser to the civil investigation, to the police? That is the question. So the Pope says in the recent document on the inviolability of the sacramental seal, he says we are not bound to reveal that at any cost. We are not supposed to break the seal of confession, whatever may be the matter. Though here it may help the child, etc., or it may help the to catch the the abuser and punish him, but still it is not the priest is not bound to reveal the seal of confession. Though the civil law says that we are bound to reveal, we need not follow that seal. Okay.
As you presented, you said if the victim is not accepting, then you cannot take any further steps.
What? Who is the?
If the victim
Is
is
not-
not ready to accept
Sir.
related to the sexual act, then we cannot do any action related to the police.
Yes.
So my doubt is, the third person is having the proof. Okay, he has got any videos or images, and is trying to prove it with civil authorities. And the case is being proved based on the issue, it's a related to that can take any action towards the.
Yeah, this is also another problem we have. For example, in the church, brothers asking that in the church level, at the church level, it cannot be proved because the victim doesn't cooperate, so we can't go ahead with the procedure. But in the civil law, proof is given to the police, for example, about the abuse, and the civil law takes the action. And the civil law also punishes the priest, the abuser, civil law punishes. So basing on the punishment given in the civil law, can we start a process also in the church? That's what exactly your meaning, no? So that is all. That is we have got a few instances we have got. Actually, in the civil law proving abuse case, we have to take the pinch of salt only, because anything can happen in the civil law. Civil law can be, anything can be proved by paying money or maybe bribe, etc., etc. But that need not be taken as it is proof for starting a process in the church. That need not be taken, because when we take up the case, we can take up, no problem, but we have to go through the process. So we have to go, and if the person can be innocent in our process, the civil law, accused him of the abuse, but when you take it to the civil, in our law, in according to our process, he can be also victim. So in that way, not necessary, since he's punished in the civil law, he's an abuser. Don't put that kind of tag there. So we have to also go through the process, and if it is proved here also in our process, then okay, no problem. But don't take it that as it is and say, accuse somebody you are an abuser like that.
Thank you, Father. My question is about possessing the photos. If there is a normal photo taken and in the photo the child maybe without proper dressing, we may take photos in our house or relatives or in
Okay.
our office.
That is not. Yeah, that doesn't come under this. But see, possessing for a sexual gratification. So that is what the word says there. Possessing for the sexual gratification. You go on seeing that one. That way it says that, not for. Okay, no question. All it 110 it is. Hope both the documents help you with some knowledge, because these are both are little practical documents. One is about first one is about the communist vita, leaving the institute, being absent. Secondly, about sexual abuse of minors by not only by clerics but also by religious and also vulnerable. So these are very important, which can come under in our. You may think that nothing happens in our congregation, nothing happens in our communities. We have no case here, Father. Our Samaskan community is very good. So you may say that good. If it is good like that, good, no problem. But it can come also in the future. When it comes in the future, be careful. Be careful. The fire brigaders. That is a fire service station. If they go now and then to every building and check the fire extinguishers are there, no? You have seen the red fire extinguisher. If you go and check everything now and then, every building place to place, when a fire takes place, no, it's very easy to put out the fire. If you don't check now and then, suddenly what happens one day, when fire takes place, what happens? When the fire takes place, the engine comes with a big sound, alarming sound. Everybody will know that, oh, there's a fire in the building. A big siren they make and come. In order to avoid that, what you should do is now and then you check the fire extinguisher. That is what you say. Instead of making a big sound afterwards, before itself, you know this law and take precautions to avoid this kind of abuses. That is what I want to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Father Provincial, respected Father Ruth Swami, the resource person, and all the fathers and brothers. I stand before you to appreciate and acknowledge the good done to us today, especially for all of us, both attending in online and offline. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to God the Almighty, who has provided space and time, also the people, to know Him more, to love Him more. So, thanks to God on behalf of you all. Next, I express my heartfelt thanks to Reverend Father Dr. T. Ruth Swami, the resource person. As I think of anything, lecture or teaching on the church documents, what I am reminded of is the
sound tradition. That is our pride and privilege of Catholic Church. And that is being presented to us today. That is part of the legitimate progress that we, all of us, are obliged to make. And that's what we realized today. And after the end of this presentation, what I understand is this. One of the CSA pastor in his preaching, he categorized. He said he can categorize teaching on Jesus on two ways. First category is after teaching, Jesus would say, go and do likewise. Another category is don't be like them. Listen to them and don't be like them. And Father made it very well after explaining this. To dominant, be careful, don't be like them. So it cautioned us. That's what I realized. Thank you so much, Father, for your valuable time, for your knowledge that you have shared with us. Thank you so much. It was very beautiful and clear. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Reverend Father Lourdes Maria, the Provincial Superior, for taking this beautiful initiative, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is the first step where we can live up to. If we don't take the first step, we cannot take the next step. Thank you so much, Father, for this beautiful initiative, keeping us updated about the current trends. Thank you so much. I also owe my thanks to many people today, because you made this day wonderful one and memorable one. Why? Because you have contributed for this success. Especially my heartfelt thanks go to Joachim, for Sangos, and brothers from Primaria for this beautiful decoration and their contribution today. Thank you so much for everyone. Also, my heartfelt thanks goes to Mr. Alex Joseph, because he made it possible to connect us globally. We are here 50 people, only we are connected, but he has made us to connect us globally. It will be passed on to whole world. Thank you so much, Mr. Alex, for your contribution today. Thank you so much. At the end, nothing I have other than to thank everyone who has contributed for this memorable day. Thank you so much. Let us cherish this, because this is only little Thanksgiving. It will become a greater Thanksgiving when we live up to today's teaching. That's how we bring greater glory to God, greater thanksgiving to God. Thank you, everyone. Now, as a token of our love, I would like to invite Reverend Father Provincial to felicitate Reverend Father Lourdes Swami. Please come on back. So that's all for today. Here, let us go down for a delicious lunch.